Why living in Australia is impossible. Australia is frequently portrayed as a sun-drenched paradise with beautiful beaches, dynamic towns, and a laid-back lifestyle. However, underneath this attractive exterior comes a complex reality that makes living in Australia appear practically impossible for some. The country, known for its gorgeous vistas and unusual animals, faces a slew of issues that might make it appear less ideal than it appears at first glance. One of the biggest impediments is Australia's harsh climate, the searing heat of the Outback, with temperatures exceeding 45 degrees Celsius (113 degrees Fahrenheit), combined with frequent and severe bushfires, provides a hard living environment. In contrast, the tropical north experiences catastrophic flooding and cyclones, adding to the volatility of the weather. Dangerous wildlife complicates life in Australia. The continent is home to some of the most venomous snakes and spiders, as well as dangerous marine animals such as box jellyfish and stonefish. Many people find that being constantly aware of these hazards is a strong deterrent. Geographic isolation also plays an important influence. Australia's distance from other major continents makes international travel time consuming and expensive, which can lead to feelings of isolation and separation. Furthermore, the high cost of living, especially in cities such as Sydney and Melbourne, and a lack of infrastructure in outlying places can make daily life difficult. Together with cultural and social barriers, these elements lead to the idea that life in Australia is impossible for some. 1. Extreme climate. Australia's climate is one of its most difficult aspects. The country is well known for its blistering heat, especially in the Outback, where summer temperatures can reach 45 degrees Celsius (113 degrees Fahrenheit). Heat waves are common and can linger for weeks, making outdoor activities nearly impossible and posing serious health hazards. Bushfires are another serious side effect of the excessive heat. Every year, Australia experiences severe bushfires that destroy homes, wildlife, and vegetation, leaving towns in ashes. The 2019-2020 bushfire season, dubbed the Black Summer, was very devastating, burning approximately 18 million hectares, 44 million acres, and wreaking considerable damage. On the other end of the scale, certain places of Australia endure significant flooding. Cyclones and strong rainfall can cause flooding in the tropical north, particularly Queensland, disrupting people and infrastructure. This severe weather unpredictability makes it difficult to foresee and plan for, exacerbating the difficulties of living in Australia. 2. Dangerous wildlife. Australia is notorious for its hazardous animals. The country's fauna, which ranges from venomous snakes and spiders to dangerous sea critters, can serve as a substantial disincentive to potential residents. Snakes. Australia has some of the world's most venomous snakes, including the inland taipan, eastern brown snake, and coastal taipan. Encounters with these snakes, albeit rare, can be lethal if not treated immediately. Spiders. The Sydney funnel web spider and the redback spider are two of the most hazardous spiders in the world. Their bites can cause significant agony and, in extreme circumstances, death if not treated. Marine creatures. Australia's coastal waters are home to deadly marine animals such as box jellyfish, stonefish, and great white sharks. Box jellyfish stings can be fatal, while stonefish stings are excruciatingly painful. Other wildlife. In addition to this, Australia contains crocodiles in its northern regions, as well as a variety of other potentially deadly species. The prospect of encountering such creatures might be a substantial psychological hurdle for individuals considering relocating to Australia. 3. Geographic isolation. Another major difficulty for Australia is its geographical isolation. Because it is located so distant from other main continents, flying to other nations can take many hours. This isolation frequently results in a sense of distance and alienation from the rest of the world, which is especially difficult for those who have family and friends in other countries. Traveling to and from Australia is both time-consuming and expensive, making international travel less accessible. This geographical remoteness can have an impact on the availability of goods and services, with some products being more expensive or difficult to obtain than in other parts of the world. Furthermore, Australia's isolation has the potential to disrupt cultural and social processes. While the country is famed for its multiculturalism, the physical distance from other cultural centers might limit exposure to global trends and ideas. This might lead to a sense of being out of step with the rest of the world. Furthermore, the economic consequences of this isolation cannot be underestimated. Importing commodities involves higher transportation costs, which are frequently passed on to consumers. This adds to the overall high cost of living, making daily life in Australia more expensive and difficult for its citizens. 4. High cost of living. The cost of living in Australia is notoriously high, especially in big cities such as Sydney and Melbourne. Housing prices have risen dramatically in recent years, making it impossible for many people to buy or rent a home. The typical property price in Sydney, for example, is among the highest in the world, making owning out of reach for many inhabitants. In addition to rent, daily expenses including groceries, transportation, and utilities are expensive. Prices for essential necessities are much higher than in many other countries. While Australia has a high standard of life, the financial load can be onerous, especially for individuals with lower salaries or who are relocating from countries with lower costs of living. Furthermore, the high expense of life goes outside the urban areas. Goods and services can be more expensive in rural and remote places due to transportation expenses and restricted availability. This economic strain affects not just individuals and families, but also small firms operating in a competitive market. 5. Limited infrastructure and services in remote areas. While Australia's cities provide a variety of amenities and services, its vast outlying areas frequently lack basic infrastructure. Healthcare, education, and career options may be limited in rural and outback areas. Residents in these places usually have to drive significant distances to get essential amenities, which can be time-consuming and expensive. Healthcare facilities in rural places are frequently understaffed, with fewer medical experts and limited specialized care. This can lead to delayed treatment and poorer health consequences for people. Similarly, educational options are limited with fewer schools and less access to higher education. Internet connectivity is another major concern in distant locations. Despite efforts to enhance broadband connection, many rural regions continue to have slow and unreliable internet. This affects everything from company operations to education, as students and entrepreneurs struggle with limited digital resources. Furthermore, transportation infrastructure in these areas is frequently inadequate, making travel difficult and costly. The combination of these elements poses significant problems for persons living in rural places, resulting in a lesser quality of life compared to their metropolitan counterparts. 6. Cultural and societal challenges. Adapting to a new culture can be difficult for immigrants. While Australia is known for its diversified society, assimilating into the local culture can be challenging. Understanding and adapting to social conventions, terminology, and local customs takes time and effort, which can be challenging for newcomers. Furthermore, Australia has a mixed history of treating Indigenous peoples. Social challenges around Indigenous rights, recognition, and reconciliation are ongoing. New residents may face difficulty handling these complex and sensitive themes without a thorough awareness of the historical and cultural backdrop. Furthermore, despite the country's multiculturalism, there are still cases of discrimination and racism. Immigrants may experience bias or feel alienated from some areas of society. Creating a sense of belonging and community can take time and effort. For those arriving from nations with different cultural values and practices, the adjustment period might be especially difficult. Balancing the preservation of one's cultural identity with the desire to integrate into Australian society is a difficult process that can present substantial social challenges. 7. Natural disasters. In addition to bushfires and floods, Australia is vulnerable to other natural calamities such as cyclones and drought. Cyclones primarily hit the northern regions, bringing devastating winds and torrential rainfall that can cause significant devastation. Droughts, on the other hand, have long plagued Australia's agricultural industry, causing water scarcity and reducing food production. The unpredictability and frequency of these natural disasters make long-term planning difficult, and they can have serious economic and societal consequences. 8. Environmental concerns. Climate change, deforestation, and pollution pose substantial risks to Australia's distinctive ecology. The Great Barrier Reef, one of the country's most famous natural beauties, is threatened by coral bleaching caused by rising water temperatures. Deforestation and habitat destruction endanger Australia's distinctive fauna, resulting in diminishing numbers and biodiversity loss. Residents that are environmentally sensitive may be particularly concerned about these issues, as attempts to maintain and preserve Australia's natural heritage are ongoing and require collaborative action. Conclusion. While Australia offers stunning landscapes, vibrant cities, and a diverse cultural experience, numerous challenges make living there seem almost impossible for some. The extreme climate, with its scorching heat and devastating bushfires, creates a harsh living environment. Dangerous wildlife, including venomous snakes and spiders, adds to the country's perilous reputation. Geographic isolation increases the cost of international travel and limits access to goods and services. The high cost of living, especially in cities like Sydney and Melbourne, places a significant financial burden on residents. Furthermore, limited infrastructure in remote areas hampers access to essential services. Cultural and social challenges, including issues related to Indigenous rights and integration, complicate life for newcomers. These factors combined contribute to the perception that living in Australia is fraught with difficulties, making it a daunting prospect for many. Nonetheless, those who adapt can find unique rewards in this complex and diverse nation. Let us know in the comments what you think about the why living in Australia is impossible, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.